Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. This time, we're going to explore the later years of Emperor Taizong,
Uh-huh.
one of the most famous rulers of China's Tang Dynasty.
Yes.
And we have this amazing historical analysis to guide us.
Okay.
It was originally written in Chinese. I'm
Wow.
really excited to see what we can learn.
Yeah, me too.
So, a lot of times we hear about all the successes of Taizong's early reign,
Right.
but today we're kind of focusing on those later years
Interest.
when things got a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, his later reign was full of difficult situations.
Exactly. And I think it'll be interesting to look at how he dealt with those challenges,
Absolutely.
how they impacted his decisions.
And how it shaped the Tang Dynasty.
Yeah, so we're not just going to list off a bunch of facts.
No,
We
no.
want to kind of get inside his head a little bit.
Get into his mindset,
Yeah, understand what he was dealing with.
the pressures, the context of the time.
Exactly. And I hear there's some juicy stuff too. Like military campaigns that didn't exactly go to plan.
Definitely some ups and downs there.
Family feuds that would make Shakespeare jealous.
Oh, some real drama.
And even a prince who was, obsessed with everything Turkic.
Oh, yeah, that's a fascinating story.
So it just goes to show that even the most powerful rulers
Even emperors.
have to deal with some pretty unexpected problems.
It's all part of the human experience.
All right, well, let's jump in then.
Sounds good.
So we'll start with Taizong's military ambitions.
Okay.
Now, the Tang Dynasty was a major power at this point,
Absolutely. A dominant force.
but they had this ongoing issue with the kingdom of Goguryeo
Uh-huh.
on the Korean peninsula.
Right. That was a constant source of tension.
And this is where the geopolitical situation gets really interesting.
Yes, it's quite complex.
So you have three kingdoms on the peninsula.
Okay.
You have Goguryeo in the
The
north,
strongest of the three,
and then Bokje and Silla in the south.
each with their own alliances and rivalries.
All right, so it's kind of this delicate balancing act for everyone involved.
Exactly. And any shift in power could have huge consequences.
And Goguryeo in particular was like a constant thorn in the Tang Dynasty's side.
Definitely a persistent challenge.
I mean, they were raiding Silla, which was a Tang ally,
A direct provocation.
and refusing to pay tribute.
A major sign of disrespect in those times.
Right, it was basically a direct challenge to the Tang Dynasty's authority.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to compare Taizong's approach to Goguryeo
Yeah.
with how Emperor Yang of the Sui Dynasty handled things.
Oh, interesting comparison.
Yeah, because his constant attacks on Goguryeo,
Huge, massive attacks.
right, they actually contributed to the Sui Dynasty's collapse.
Wow, so Taizong really needed to learn from those mistakes.
He had to avoid repeating history.
For sure, so what was his strategy?
Well, he was much more cautious.
I see.
He kept his army smaller,
Okay.
around 100,000 troops.
So a more manageable force.
Yeah, and less strain on his resources and people.
Makes sense. And what was his overall goal?
A swift victory.
A decisive win.
He wanted to end this conflict quickly and decisively.
But Goguryeo wasn't just going to give up that easily.
Now, they were known for their resilience.
Right, they had a really strong defense system.
What's been called a 3-in-1 defense system?
3-in-1, what's that?
So you have natural barriers, strategically placed castles, and brutal Korean winters.
Oh, wow. So even with careful planning, Goguryeo was a tough nut to crack.
It was a formidable challenge.
And it really slowed down the Tang army's progress.
It was a major obstacle.
And this is where we see the rise of this legendary Tang general,
Oh, yes.
Xu Rangui.
A remarkable figure.
He started as an ordinary soldier, right?
Just a common soldier.
But he rose through the ranks because of his bravery.
Incredible bravery.
There's that famous story.
Oh, the Battle of Anchi City?
Yes, tell me about that.
So the Tang army was outnumbered,
Okay.
and Xu Rangui charges into battle
Dressed all in white.
on a white horse.
Like something out of a movie.
It's an epic image.
And he helped secure a Tang victory.
He was instrumental in their success.
It's amazing.
a true hero.
But it's not just about Xu Rangui's individual bravery.
No, it's also about Taizong's leadership.
He was able to spot talent in the middle of this difficult campaign.
He recognized Xu Rangui's potential,
He gave him the opportunity to shine.
a testament to Taizong's ability to identify and utilize talent.
But even with Xu Rangui's heroics,
Yes.
Taizong couldn't get that quick win he was hoping for.
The campaign faced setbacks.
So what happened?
There was some tension between strategy and keeping the emperor safe.
Okay, that makes sense.
Some advisors thought they should bypass Goguryeu's mountain
Let's
fortresses.
speed things up.
Yeah, but others?
Like Zheng Senwuji.
Right, he prioritized Taizong's safety.
He was always a cautious voice.
He argued for a more measured approach.
So they were kind of stuck between these two options.
They wanted a quick victory, but also had to protect their emperor.
That's a tough call.
A difficult balancing act.
And ultimately, time became a factor.
Winter was approaching.
Those harsh Korean winters.
Right, and Taizong had to make a decision,
So he withdrew.
a strategic retreat.
It wasn't the decisive victory he wanted,
No.
but probably the right choice under the circumstances.
A necessary decision, given the situation.
And it's interesting because Goguryeo was eventually defeated later.
Right, during the reign of Taizong's successor.
So in a way, his efforts did contribute to the eventual victory.
He laid the groundwork
It's a reminder that sometimes victories happen in stages,
over time.
with different people contributing along the way.
It's a collective effort.
But things weren't exactly peaceful back home either.
No, there were troubles brewing.
This is where the family drama comes in.
The battle for succession.
So Taizong himself came to power through a coup, right?
The Xuanwu Gate incident.
Where he basically eliminated his rival.
It's a brutal power struggle.
So you can imagine how sensitive he was to the issue of succession.
It was a delicate matter.
And now he had to deal with a similar power struggle among his own sons.
History seemed to be repeating itself.
Talk about intense family dynamics.
A truly Shakespearean drama.
So who are the main players in all of this?
Well, the main contenders were Crown Prince Li Zhi
Okay.
and his rival Prince Li Tai.
And they were quite different, weren't they?
Oh, very distinct personality.
So Li Zhi, he was the heir apparent.
The designated successor.
But it sounds like he was going through a bit of a rebellious phase.
That's one way to put it.
He became fascinated with Turkic culture.
A rather unusual interest for a crown prince.
Yeah, wearing their clothes.
Adopting their hairstyles.
Even living in a Turkic tent.
Instead of the palace.
That's a statement.
And there are stories of him performing some strange rituals.
Oh, like what?
Having his attendants cut their faces.
What?
To show their loyalty.
Wow.
It was an imitation of a Turkic funeral custom.
Definitely not your typical princely behavior.
A bit eccentric, to say the least.
What about Li Tai? What was he like?
Li Tai, the Prince of Wei.
Okay.
He was playing a different game.
A different approach.
He was charming, intelligent, a master strategist.
Okay, so he knew how to work the system.
He's a skilled politician.
He built relationships with powerful officials.
Cultivating alliances.
Commissioned scholarly works.
Patron of the arts.
And really presented himself as the ideal successor.
A carefully crafted image.
While Li Zhi was rebelling,
Open defiance.
Li Tai was trying to win favor through political maneuvering.
A more subtle approach.
And it seemed to be working.
He gained a lot of support at court.
He had advisors like Sen Wenbin and Li Zhi promoting his cause.
A powerful faction.
But I'm guessing not everyone was on board with his plan.
There were other voices.
People who were maybe a little bit concerned about this rivalry.
Concerned about the potential consequences.
Especially given the history of violence in their family.
The shadow of the Xuanwu Gate incident loomed large.
So who were these voices of caution?
Two of Taizong's most trusted advisors.
Okay.
Zhang Sunwuji.
And Chu Suiliang,
Wise men.
known for their integrity and their loyalty to Taizong.
And they were probably worried about what this competition between the princes might lead to.
They feared it could escalate,
Lead to more conflict.
possibly even violence.
They'd seen it happen before.
And they didn't want to see history repeat itself.
Right, and I'm guessing Li Tai's carefully crafted image started to crack a little bit.
It did. His tactics backfired.
In what way?
He went too far in trying to please his father.
Okay, how so?
He told Taizong that if he became emperor, he would kill his own son
What?
to ensure a smooth succession for his younger brothers.
Wow, that's a bold strategy.
A rather ruthless one.
And I bet Taizong wasn't buying it.
No, he saw through it.
It was Chu Suiliang who pointed out the flaw in Li Tai's logic, right?
Yes, he said that no one would willingly give up absolute power.
Especially not by sacrificing their own child.
It was a cynical ploy.
Taizong realized Li Tai was being manipulative.
His true colors were revealed, so his big plan kind of blew up in his face.
His ambitions were exposed.
What about Li Zhi?
Well, he was becoming increasingly desperate,
Feeling the pressure.
and he decided to take a huge risk.
Oh boy, what did he do?
He started plotting to seize power by force.
A coup.
A rebellion against his own father.
Coups seem to run in this family.
A dangerous pattern.
And a key figure enters the picture at this point.
Who's that?
Hu Junji,
A famous general.
one of the founding heroes of the Tang Dynasty.
A respected figure.
Wait, so a respected general was involved in this plot.
It seems so.
What was he thinking?
It appears he had his own reasons for joining the conspiracy.
Like what?
He had been reprimanded by Taizong
For what?
for his conduct during a military campaign.
Oh, so he was feeling disgruntled.
He felt unfairly treated,
Resentment can be a powerful motivator.
and it made him vulnerable to Li Chengqin's ideas.
So ambition and resentment, a dangerous combination.
A recipe for trouble.
And their connection was strengthened through Hu Junji's son-in-law,
Helan Chushi.
who was already part of Li Chengqin's inner circle.
A link between the two.
So this alliance was formed,
A plot was hatched.
and there were even hints that Hu Junji had bigger plans.
Some historians believe he saw Li Chengqin as a puppet ruler,
Someone he could control.
a means to gain more power for himself.
It wasn't just about supporting Li Chengqin.
It was about personal ambition.
But even though he joined the conspiracy,
He made his choice.
Hu Junji wasn't exactly at peace with his decision.
No, he was tormented by guilt.
Really?
He couldn't sleep. He was constantly sighing.
Sounds like he was having second thoughts.
His conscience was weighing on him.
His wife even begged him to confess.
She feared for their family's safety.
It's a powerful reminder that even those who plot against the throne
Even those who seek power,
aren't immune to the consequences.
there's always a price to pay.
So how did this plot unravel?
Well, like many conspiracies,
Yeah.
it was undone by betrayal.
Someone talked
Helan
to
Shushi
Zhongji's own son-in-law.
betrayed the plot to save himself.
Well, that's called.
Desperate act of self-preservation.
And the consequences were swift and severe.
Right? Hao Junji was executed for treason,
And Li Zhi,
stripped of his title as crown prince.
so now Taizong is facing this nightmare scenario.
A crisis of succession.
Two of his sons caught up in rebellion and betrayal.
A devastating blow.
What did he do?
This is where we see Taizong's wisdom and the impact of his own past.
How so?
During Li Qingqi's interrogation,
Okay.
the prince confessed that he'd only resorted to such drastic measures.
Because.
Li Tai had been relentlessly bullying him,
Oh, wow. So he felt trapped
pushed to the edge.
with no other way out.
Desperate times,
And this realization had a profound effect on Taizong.
he saw the parallels
Between his son's rivalry
and his own past struggles.
with his brothers,
The violence of the Xuanwu Gate incident,
history was repeating itself.
a cycle of ambition and betrayal.
I can't imagine how devastating that must have been for him.
To see his family torn apart by the same forces that had brought him to power.
He was determined to break that cycle.
To find a different path.
He knew he couldn't choose Li Qingcan
No.
or Li Tai.
They were both consumed by ambition.
A thirst for revenge.
They were unfit to rule.
He needed another solution.
A different approach.
Meanwhile, back in the capital.
Was Li Zhi the Prince of Jin?
Oh, yeah, the quiet one.
The one who kind of stayed out of the whole mess.
The one we haven't even really talked about yet.
Exactly.
Interesting choice.
A surprising move, but a really smart one.
So what made him choose Li Zhi?
Well, I think Taizong, looking back on his own rise to power,
Yeah, that violent incident at Xuanwu Gate.
he saw how destructive ambition could be,
Uh-huh.
and he was seeing that same pattern play out.
In his older sons.
Exactly.
So Li Zhi was kind of the safe option.
The one who wasn't actively scheming or fighting.
Yeah, he was kind of just there.
And this really speaks to Taizong's understanding of human nature.
What do you mean?
Well, he knew that choosing one of the warring brothers,
It would probably just lead to more conflict.
more bloodshed, more instability.
He was thinking about the long-term stability of the dynasty.
Absolutely.
And it's still a gamble, right?
Of course, every decision has risks.
I mean, we don't really know much about Li Zhi.
He was a bit of an unknown quantity.
Did he actually have what it took to be a good emperor?
That's a question historians still debate.
I see.
I mean, Li Zi's reign did have some notable achievements,
Okay.
but it was also a time of political intrigue.
More drama.
It's hard to say for sure how much of that was due to Li Zi himself.
Versus the circumstances he inherited.
Exactly.
It's that what if of history.
The path's not taken.
We can never know for sure what might have happened if Taizong had chosen differently.
It's one of the mysteries of history.
But it's fascinating to think about.
It sparks our imagination.
We've been focusing on these challenges and controversies.
The difficult parts of Taizong's later reign.
But it's important to remember that overall, his reign is still considered a golden age for China.
The Zhenguan era, as it's known.
A time of prosperity, cultural growth, military success.
Taizong laid the foundation for a dynasty that would last for centuries.
He's often held up as the model emperor.
The embodiment of Confucian ideals.
And it's interesting because we see him evolve over time.
How so?
Well, he goes from seizing power through force
At Xuanwu Gate.
to choosing this peaceful, almost passive approach to succession.
A significant shift.
It makes you wonder how much his own personal experiences shaped his thinking.
How his personality influenced his decisions.
Yeah, were his choices driven by his own beliefs?
Or by the demands of being emperor.
It's a complex question.
There's no easy answer.
So as we wrap up this look into Taizong's later years,
Okay.
what are some of the big takeaways?
What should our listeners keep in mind?
I think one of the biggest takeaways for me
Yeah.
is that even the most successful leaders
Even emperors
face setbacks.
then have to make tough choices.
Taizong's later reign, with its military challenges,
The succession drama.
the personal dilemmas,
It reminds us that power comes with a heavy burden,
and the constant threat of conflict.
both inside and outside the court.
It's not all about glorious victories and easy decisions.
It's much more complicated than that.
It's messy, with ambition, betrayal, wise choices, compromises.
The full spectrum of human experience
It really brings history to life.
makes it more relatable.
And I think it highlights the importance of looking deeper,
Beyond the surface level facts
understanding the motivations and the
and
challenges.
consequences of choices
Now, we focused on a lot of specific events,
and personalities.
but if you had to step back for a moment,
Yeah.
is there a question that we haven't really answered?
A question that might spark our listeners' curiosity.
Something to ponder.
I think what really stands out to me
Mhm.
is how much emphasis is placed on Taizong's personal role in everything.
Yeah,
He's not just a figurehead.
right.
He's deeply involved in military strategy,
Family disputes.
decisions about succession.
He's in the thick of it.
It makes you wonder how much his own personality shaped the events of his reign.
That's a great question.
It reminds us that history is made by people,
Real people with their own motivations.
their flaws, their experiences.
And those personal factors can have a huge impact on the course of events.
Absolutely.
We often think of historical figures as these larger-than-life icons,
But they were human beings,
navigating complex situations.
just like us.
I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
A lot to unpack.
This deep dive into Emperor Taizong's later years.
It's been fascinating.
We've uncovered military struggles,
Political maneuvering,
family drama.
psychological intrigue,
It's history come to life.
and it shows how much there is to learn.
Even about figures we think we know well.
There's always more to discover.
So for our listener who's now totally hooked on Tang Dynasty history,
Who wants to keep learning?
what would you suggest for further exploration?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Zizi Tongjin.
Yeah.
It's a great place to start.
For those detailed historical accounts.
It can be a bit dense,
Okay.
but it's packed with information.
About Taizong's reign.
And all the events we've been talking about,
It's like the ultimate source.
a treasure trove of historical knowledge.
A great starting point for anyone who wants to dig deeper.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining me on this journey into the past.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a fascinating exploration
Taizong's later years are full of surprises
and valuable lessons.
about leadership, about history, about human nature.
And for our listeners, keep exploring, keep asking questions.
And keep those brains buzzing.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how history is shaped,
Yeah.
Not just by like big events and wars and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but also by individual people.
By their personalities.
Yeah, and the choices they made.
Their motivations.
We could probably talk about this for hours.
Definitely
But I think we've given our listeners a pretty good overview
a good glimpse into this period.
of Taizong's reign.
It's a fascinating period.
And I think that's part of what makes history so interesting.
What do you mean?
Well, it's like this never-ending journey of discovery.
Right.
Every new detail we uncover,
Leads to more questions.
our insights.
And a deeper appreciation for how complex the past really was.
Exactly. It's not just about memorizing names and dates.
No,
It's about understanding
the forces that shape societies
the choices people make
and how those choices have ripple
that
effects.
can last for generations.
It's all connected.
So for our listener who's now totally hooked on Tang Dynasty history,
Eager to learn more.
what are some resources you'd recommend?
Well, we've mentioned Zizi Tongjin a few times.
Yeah, the Comprehensive Chronicle of Chinese History.
Exactly. It's a great place to start.
For detailed accounts of this era.
It's a bit dense,
Okay, fair warning.
but it's packed with information.
But there are also some really good historical novels out there.
Oh, yeah.
And fictionalized accounts of the Tang Dynasty
That can bring this era to life.
in a more engaging way
Yeah, sometimes those stories can help us connect,
with the human side of history.
put faces and emotions to the events,
They can spark our imaginations,
make us feel like we're right there in the middle of it all.
experiencing the intrigue, the drama.
Exactly, and that's what makes history so captivating.
It's not just a collection of facts,
It's a tapestry of human experience.
full of triumphs and tragedies.
Wisdom and folly.
I think we did a good job with this deep dive.
I agree.
We've gone beyond the surface level.
We've explored Taizong's motivations,
The challenges he faced,
the consequences of his choices,
especially in those later years.
a period that's often overlooked.
But as we've seen, just as important as his early reign
It all contributes to his legacy.
and the future of the Tang Dynasty.
Absolutely.
We've uncovered military struggles, political maneuvering.
Family drama, psychological intrigue.
It's all part of the story.
It's all connected.
And it reminds us that history is never simple.
It's full of twists and turns.
Unexpected outcomes.
And that's what makes it so fascinating to study.
So until our next deep dive,
Keep exploring
keep questioning.
and keep those brains buzzing.
See you next time.